Hey everybody, welcome to Mark Bell's Power Project podcast. Today's episode of the podcast is brought to you by Piedmontese Beef. Nsima, can you tell me what you had for dinner last night?
You know what? I'm going to definitely tell you, and you're going to enjoy it. You'll enjoy it. But I want to quickly mention, the holidays are coming. So Piedmontese is a really awesome company that if you have a company that has maybe 20 to 500 employees, what better gift to give them than the gift of Piedmontese beef?
Nice.
Like Piedmontese, they partner with companies and they make it easy to help give your employees really healthy meat options as a gift. So check that out. Now, in terms of what I had for dinner, you know, certain people really think that ground beef is like the most, I guess, boring type of beef. But the thing about the Piedmontese 8515 is that it's just so good. So I legit just made that up, had some cheese, ate the whole pack. It was amazing. I can never go wrong with any cut of beef, or especially the ground beef that comes from Piedmontese.
For more information, please head over to Piedmontese.com. That's Piedmontese.com. At checkout, enter promo code Power Project for 25% off your order. And if your order is $99 or more, you get free 2-day shipping. Good to go.
Yeah, I think people are trying to make I think most people would like for it to be like our decision, you know? I don't really know like whether you're left or you're right, like how much it changes the fact that I don't think anybody likes what's happening, you know? However, you know, maybe some people are in support of it, but I don't, it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense is the problem that I keep going back to whenever I'm like, yeah, I'll just do what I'm told. Like, I don't have a big, you know, I don't care. Like, I'll just wear a mask. It doesn't seem to be that much of a responsibility for me to take on.
Yeah.
I'll just wear one. But then I'm like, wait, but why is everything so dumb? Like, you know, why is, you know, Walmart and Target and all these places open, which I'm in favor of. I think it's great.
Yeah.
But then the supermarkets, the salons, you know, we're here in California. I don't know what it's like in some of your states, but everything's still pretty, you know, shut down in some sense. I mean, especially like hair salons and places like that, like they're not open at all anymore. And there's people like, I guess, figuring out ways to do it like in their garage on the down low, and you know, people will find a way, which is great. But I haven't really heard people be like, I haven't heard anyone really come out and say like, hey, I think this is like, this does seem like a good plan. I mean, have you guys heard anybody be in favor of like what's going on, like, and saying like, this is clearly working?
No, not really. Other than like hearing it on like the news.
Is it having any impact? Is it having any positive impact whatsoever?
All right, I'll say this.
Is it helping us get to as many people with the virus as possible? Because it seems like, according to the news, those numbers are going through the roof, and they keep telling us every day about how many people have the coronavirus.
Exactly. And another thing that, again, you'll consistently hear about the bad things that are going on. So did you hear about the thing in Granite Bay on New Year's Eve? Mm-mm. Okay, so this is Sacramento. Apparently, there's Eddie Murphy's old mansion that he used to own, and he sold it off. But a lot of Sacramento partygoers threw a big New Year's Eve party there and posted a bunch of.
This place is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's a ridiculous spot. But they posted a bunch of pictures on social, and you know, they were going crazy. Everyone was like not wearing masks and stuff, and apparently people are calling it the super spreader event because hella people from that specific party got corona.
Wow.
And then there's an account that literally took pictures or followed those people's stories for all the places they went. Some people went to Reno that ended up getting it. Some people went to other spots that ended up getting it. And it's like, that's the stuff you continue to see. And it's like, you're the reason why, or stay home. But that's going to continue to scare the hell out of people.
Man, that's pretty convenient that somebody was able to go back and save everyone's story.
Dude.
Like, I don't know, skeptical hippo eyes, but I'm not saying that it's impossible. You know what I mean?
What do you mean?
Like, it's just convenient. Like, oh, this party at Eddie Murphy's mansion in Granite Bay, everyone got sick. Look, here's where they all went.
Dude, no, like,
it's just, I have to look at things like, I don't have to, but like, just that's the first thing my brain goes to. I hate that.
Yeah, how the fuck do they know?
Yeah, and I hate that, like, that's where my mind goes, but it's like, like question everything, right?
Yeah.
It's just, that's the first thing I'm like, wow, they like just either one super fan of everybody was there copying their story.
The level of stalking is deep. Literally, the level of stalking is deep because they screenshotted everything from everybody's story. They literally put down everybody's names. It was like, God damn, investigative journalists. Like, it's not even an investigative journalist. It's just somebody who made an account and was like, this is what happened.
I hope they follow at Mark Bell's Power Project podcast.
Right. Well, what about the gym in New Jersey when we had those guys on the show and they talked about how they haven't had a single case and they've had like 60,000 entries into the gym because they still are practicing social distancing. They're still practicing some of the things, but they're open. And I got a really hard time in trying to embrace or halfway even understand, even just halfway understand why our schools are still closed.
Yeah.
I really have a hard time understanding that one. That one's very, very difficult for me to understand, especially because there's so many schools, there's so much property, there's so many different buildings. I personally believe that nobody wants to figure this out. They just don't want to figure it out. And I think it could be figured out. And, hopefully by someone smarter than myself, but it seems like most schools have an auditorium. And it seems like you can bring in a decent amount of kids, space them out. I don't know how many kids, 10, 20, whatever amount you think is fine. But some auditoriums can hold like 1,000 people. Have the auditorium open, have a teacher in there with some kids, put up fucking glass, or whatever, plastic, whatever way you think you need to do it that way. And then also, can we just not have school the same way as we used to? Can we not have 6 subjects or whatever amount of subjects go on? How about you do 2? All right, history, math. All right, you're out. Maybe it doesn't have to be the same teacher as always. And the teachers union and these teachers, my whole family is comprised of teachers, but I'm still going to be the first person to say, fuck the teachers that don't want to work. Like if they don't want to work, they don't want to work. They don't want to go back. They're scared. Then let's start over. Have them find another job. It might sound heartless, might sound cold, but we got to move forward. We can't sit back. We can't sit back and wait around for people that are going to, because when are these people going to feel safe? Every kid needs to be vaccinated or I'm not going back. Like what's the,
have you heard that said?
No, I don't know. I'm wondering. I'm wondering like what would they need to have happen? What if all the kids got tested? Would that help? Would that help you to would some of these teachers come back? And then some people are saying it's about pay, but I got news for you. Teachers make a lot more money than you might think. There's a lot of teachers that make 60, 70, 80K a year. That ain't bad. That's not bad pay. Yeah. For having 3 months off, that ain't bad. Depends on where you work. Certain schools do certain things. I think Woodland in particular. Yeah, I think it's Woodland High School. Like pays out more than just about anybody.
Damn,
it's all bullshit the way that it works. It's like it has to do with a lot of things. I'm not even gonna bother getting that side of things, but they could figure out how to have school going on.
I mean, real talk, they probably have to. They have to figure something out. I mean, even let's say this: you have a certain amount of kids in school. How about like not like on a certain week, but maybe half the week, a certain amount of kids go, and the other half, a certain amount of kids go. It'll limit the amount of kids in school. There could be distance between fucking seating.
What you're saying is too logical.
I mean, at least get them in there because like you were mentioning earlier before the episode, kids need to be around kids. Like you think about how adults are feeling all sad and stuff because they can't get around other people. I mean, think about how kids feel. Like they're getting used to having to talk to their friends on their phones. That's not good.
Let's maybe even make it about the kids. Let's do it for the kids. That's what we're supposed to be doing anyways. But like our generation, like if you're my age, like you're pretty much toast. Like you got a couple more good years in you pretty much, but it's all about our youth. It's about the kids that are coming up. It's about the kids that are 12 and 13 and 17 and 18. It's about them. It's not about us anymore because the times will change, and we'll just keep getting older, and we'll just keep getting more frustrated about how everything's changing so fast, but it will still change really fucking fast. Yep. We'll just try to complain a little louder and crank our hearing aids up a little bit more.
When you're mentioning like, hey, we have, these gymnasiums and these cafeterias and all this, like we could space things out. It's funny because you see a bunch of memes and stuff just pointing out how silly everything is. So the last one I saw, everyone was like distant from each other in line at the airport. They have their bags, they're, every other line or so, and then every, 6 feet or whatever. And it's like, okay, that works. And then the next picture is everybody in this tube on an airplane, and it's a full, it's like, you know what I mean? Like, okay.
Yeah.
So, on the one hand, I have no clue if being 6 feet apart does anything, but I don't know, man. Like, why in certain locations it's a must, and others it's like, okay, well, we'll put all this, all this stuff in this bin at Costco, and just everybody circles around it and touches the same thing.
Finger fucking.
I couldn't bring myself to say it.
We gotta say it. Doesn't matter that you're gonna become a dad. You gotta say it.
It's a family show now. But you know what I mean? Like, it's just,
that was
so
the best
silly.
Description. That was great.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Oh man,
it just seems crazy. And then to try to implement something like that at school, like if that's what it takes, sure. But it's just, it doesn't make too much sense to me. I don't know shit, but hey, even I can see that.
How your daughter was homeschooled in the past and stuff. Mm-hmm. How do you think she's dealing with it? Are you guys able to get around her, or is she able to get around some of her friends and stuff?
So a lot of the virtual stuff is still happening. So like she'll FaceTime some of her cousins and stuff, but we happen to live pretty close to a cousin exactly her age.
Wow,
so
that's cool.
Yeah, we get them together as much as possible. So she did homeschool 5th grade, and she wanted to go back for 6th grade. And then after that, she's like, yeah, I think I'm down for homeschooling. But this was right when everything started happening anyway. So it's like, all right, well, I guess it's going to happen regardless. So good thing, we were kind of leaning that way. I think if everything opened up, I don't know what we would do. We haven't really talked about it. We had talked about Acton Academy. I would love to get her into that. There's a couple of hurdles there for us, but she's been handling it pretty good, man. She'll wake up, she'll handle her school stuff, and then be like, all right, what are we doing today? And get it over and done with.
Cool.
She's still not pumped to even just deal with school, period. Like, I'm like, hey, if you don't like school, figure out how to finish sooner. She's like, what do you mean? Right. I'm like, I don't know how to do it. I'm like, but I know people go for like their GED, which is all you really need when you apply for a job if they ask for that sort of thing. I was like, basically, you just have to pass a test that says that you know stuff that they teach you in school.
Yeah.
Pass that, and then you're done with school. She's like, well, how do I do that? I'm going to ask my teacher. I'm like, yeah, ask your teacher. I was like, and, figure it out. I don't know. I can't do it for you.
It's illegal. It's illegal not to go to school.
Yeah, I know.
But yet you don't need a degree for anything. You literally don't need it for anything, especially to go to like college and stuff. I mean, remember Matt was on the show from Acton Academy telling us that blew my mind. I always thought like people always kind of hung that over your head. Your grades in 11th grade are the most important or whatever.
Mm-hmm. And your permanent record.
Record. That F is going to follow you forever.
Your permanent record.
Yeah, and then didn't he say that you actually have better odds of getting into school if you don't pass or some shit like that?
It's like it makes it sound like you're going to have like a felony or something.
Yeah. That's exactly how they do that.
Oh, it scared me. I was like, that doesn't sound good. Permanent record.
My suspension. Oh, God.
Who's got life? Who's got this record?
I don't know where mine is, but
yeah, no.
They're checking out like Jeff Bezos. They're checking out his record. They're checking out Elon Musk. Like they have it like in a vault, and they're just gonna pull it out like one day randomly and be like, "Hey, man, all this shit's gone. That fucking D that you got in math class in 11th grade." That shit's real. We warned you about this fucking permanent record shit, didn't we? Fucking turn it over. Give us the keys to Amazon and Tesla. Mm-hmm. You're done.
That's it.
Hand it over.
You thought you could run, but nope. Told you it was going to come back to bite you in the butt.
Yep.
Oh, man. God.
Talking about things that are depressing. I remember that depressed the hell out of me in school.
What the
fact that like, oh, wow, like if I do one day wake up and want to go to college, they're going to look back at my record.
Oh, yeah.
And like that was just like a terrible feeling.
Scared the hell out of me.
I was like, yeah. So on second thought, no, we should leave school closed.
School is very confusing.
No me gusta.
If you do really well in school, then you're a nerd, and people, talk shit about that.
Mm-hmm.
And if you just want to kind of hang out and cruise, then you're kind of a loser,
Mm-hmm.
You're like, I just want to hang out over here with these guys. You're like, yeah, but those guys smoke pot and those guys are losers.
But I'm not really into that. I just like that they play hacky sack.
Like, okay, I'm not going to, yeah, exactly. All right, well, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to be over here. I'm going to kind of hang out more with the jocks. Well, then you're just a dumb jock.
Yeah.
You can't figure out where should I go? Where should I go that would be positive?
But why is it the hacky sack does follow that crowd?
Oh yeah, the
Just the stoners.
stoners.
Yeah.
I don't know.
The kids with the AC/DC jackets, shit like that. Yeah. Out there, yeah, playing hacky sack, and then they're also like in metal shop, and they were always working on cars and shit like that.
Yeah.
Right?
They always somehow manage to get like extra passes from like certain teachers.
Wait, let's pause real quick. You had metal shop?
Yeah, so we had at our school. Yeah,
We had wood shop, but
In high school or elementary school? I remember we had wood shop.
What
in
was
elementary
big on that
school,
stuff
but-
was Arnold. When Arnold was governor, he was big on that kind of stuff.
Hey, bring it
But
back.
I don't think California has much of that anymore.
Yeah, they took that away.
They barely got PE nowadays.
Yeah.
Same.
Oh God, the PE thing. That's sad, man.
What about Zoom PE? Have you seen that?
That's
get
real.
out of
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
What are they having kids do?
Yeah. Quinn has like PE class.
Is she like doing jumping jacks in her room?
No, she's just like watching it, like writing shit down. She doesn't do anything.
Watching what? Like what is she watching?
somebody like exercise. Yeah.
Are you kidding?
No,
Or is it-
I'm dead serious. It's terrible.
Okay, so what did you see? Like what were they doing on the screen?
They sometimes will do yoga. Sometimes they'll do like push-ups and squats. And
She has to just write things down. Like
no, she's supposed to do it. She's supposed to do it. She's too cool though.
At least there's the
can't bring
attempt.
herself.
I'll give them that there's the attempt, right, to say like, hey, this is PE.
Oh, Andy has done some of the workouts with her, and it's pretty good, really. But I think most of the kids are just doing what Quinn's doing, and they're just like texting each other about, like they're in class and they're not, not supposed to have their phones and stuff, but the teachers can't see.
yeah.
You can't see who's doing what.
Oh my gosh.
But I think the situation that we're in right now, I think is, it's easy to say when you're older, it's easy to kind of point out the things that the younger generation does and say this is disastrous.
Yeah.
My dad's generation, or I guess a little after my dad's generation, the TV was a big thing, right? Like in the 70s and 80s and things like that. That became a big thing. And when I was a kid growing up, video games kind of came on the scene, but it was still kind of light. Like there wasn't a crazy amount of video game things going on. It wasn't a multi-billion-dollar industry like it is today. And you could go to like the arcade and things like that, which was different. Like going to the arcade was different. You're going out, you're doing something. But I think, each generation kind of has these things that they nitpick or pick on. And maybe even earlier than that, maybe it was like music and Woodstock and psychedelic drugs and like all these things, and saying this country's really going to hell. Like, look what's happening. And most of the time it doesn't lead to anything really negative at all. I'm a proponent of video games. I like them. I think they're great. I think they can be overdone. They can be addicting like many other things. But what we see today where kids don't interact with each other or other people, and they really are only interacting mainly on their phone, I can't help but think like that. There's got to be something to that. There's got to be something different about us interacting in person. We know that we can't, no matter how much you think you hate people, if you were isolated for 2 or 3 days, no phone, no TV, no music, no one around, I mean, you would be fucked really, really fast. You would be really screwed. Remember, we had Aubrey Marcus on the show, and he talked about one of the craziest experiences he ever had was just to be alone and to be in the dark for like 3 days. I think it was 3 days.
Yeah.
Something like that, 72 hours or something like that, right? He said it flipped him out. It was like crazier than any drug he ever tried or whatever, right? So we're not made to be in isolation, and I'm not saying that we're necessarily that isolated, but it's got to be different. Like, I'm just thinking it's different. I see my daughter's on her phone quite a bit, which I don't really have a huge problem with her being on her phone necessarily, but I'd love for her to be in person around her friends more. That's the other thing about the phones and about the internet, is like that it's a gateway to kind of communicate with anybody. And that is something that I do have major concern about for my son and my daughter. Like, it's just, you know, like, are they going to like kind of fall in love with somebody through this, you know, mechanism, which I wouldn't have any problem with if they were a little older. But at this age, it's like, they just don't have enough life experience to understand what the fuck's going on yet. And, you know, what if Quinn is falling in love with someone who's 18 or something? She's 13, you know? So there's a lot of weird, crazy shit that can happen that's even worse than that through the internet. But I mean, that's not really where my focus is. My main focus is just how do I get her around her buddies more? And like you, Andrew, she's very fortunate that she has a cousin that she hangs out with a lot. And we get together as a family very often. Mm-hmm. So I think those of you that have a similar concern to what I have is like, just try to figure out a substitute, try to figure out a way to get your kids to interact with their friends more. I try to suggest to Quinn, I'm like, hey, I'll bring you and your friend to Target, or like, I'll bring you guys, like, you want to go to the mall? Like, I'll bite a bullet and like, I'll just
take an adventure to Walmart.
Yeah.
See what goes down over here.
Yeah. She likes Walmart. I'll have to bring that up to her again. But it's a lot of times she's like, nah, I'm good. Cause she just is interacting with her friends through the phone. So she doesn't she doesn't feel like she needs to see them. But I'm thinking old school. I'm like, I think you have to see them. I think it's important.
Yeah. What they're missing out on is just like what you said, like the life experiences, you know, like they're growing up without growing, if that makes sense, you know, cause everything's digital, you know, it sounds weird cause my daughter kind of had a little bit of dealing with bullying and stuff, but it made her stronger, right? Now you can block somebody, or, you know, like they're just different online. And now some kids are going to miss, you know, either seeing that happen, avoiding it, getting over it. You know, I'm not saying like, oh, it's good to be bullied or it's good for people, but I'm just saying like in general, like they're not really getting the same struggles that they would have in person, and they're not growing, but they are still aging. And you're right. Like I've had to tell Jasmine, like, hey, like not everybody is who they say that they are online. You can't really, unfortunately, can't trust anybody unless you're face to face. And even then still, you know, have skeptical hippo eyes. And it's tough because those life experiences aren't happening anymore.
I think it's really hard to interpret. Like if I had a problem with you in person, it's pretty easy to interpret. You're like, you know, for your daughter or something, she can be like, well, that girl's not my kind of girl that I want to hang out with. And she's mean to me every day, and it's pretty clear. And even like, you know, body posture and the way somebody acts or communicates around you, it's like, it's so obvious. You're like, well, this is obvious. They don't like me. And then someone else can instruct you and say, hey, look, for whatever reason, you guys just don't get along. And that person just doesn't like you, you know, and they can explain like, hey, maybe they have a different situation going on at home, or maybe they just don't like you because of your hair or your clothes or your ethnicity or whatever it is. They just, for whatever reason, they just don't like you. That is like, that's like not that hard to accept, where you can be pretty bummed because you could want that person or that group to like you, but you do accept it and you kind of move on. But like digitally, I think it would be really weird where you have these friends that are, you know, halfway nice to you here and there, but then they don't invite you to this or that, and you see them all hanging out together on like Instagram or Facebook, or they're Snapchatting each other back and forth, and you're not part of it, and you're the brunt of a lot of the jokes and stuff like that. Like that'd be horrible. That'd be brutal.
And I have a question for both of you guys. Do you guys like to FaceTime people?
No, I kind of hate it because it's like always all sketchy.
Yeah.
Sketchy as in like the connection?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just, not working that good.
Yeah.
I've gotten used to it for sure because of all this. Like before, Charlie Zamora would like he wouldn't call. He would just like FaceTime. I'm like, dude, I can't answer. And he would text like, I know you're taking a dump. Just answer it.
Yeah.
Like, all right. And he's like, I knew it. And I'm like, okay, calm down. But so like I was like kind of uncomfortable with it. And now because we've done so many Zoom podcasts and all that, like it's not that
normally
big of a deal.
Normally for me, I'll let someone know ahead of time, like, hey, I'm going to FaceTime you. And I'll FaceTime them for 2 seconds, just say, hey, what's up? How's it going? And I'm like, I'm going to call you back normal in 5 seconds because the thing's always all glitchy.
Yeah. The reason why I asked you guys that is because like for me personally, the homies I have, I do not like, I like to see and talk to these people in person. It's like when we talk about things, I don't want to talk to them on FaceTime about like, you know, life and stuff, right?
It's like that's like halfway.
It's like I'd just rather not. Honestly, I would just rather not talk to you if I have to talk to you for 30 minutes on FaceTime. You know, let's go take a walk and talk about something.
I agree about
let's
that.
Let's meet up and speak about something, right? It's very different. You know, like you said, there's all this body language and stuff. It makes a difference on how you feel. I can't do it, right? But like you're saying, like Quinn's okay with that. And like, you know, you're okay with that. I guess I just can't relate because I just dislike it so much. Even my mom, like I will FaceTime my mom because that's my mom, but I'd rather much go see her and talk to her in person because there's all these things that you can't explain when you're actually talking to someone in person. And that's huge.
Right. Yeah. I think at this time, I think you have to get creative. So there might be people that you just can't see. And so maybe you do have opportunity to FaceTime them or something, but I couldn't agree more. Like it's just, I find that sometimes a little bit like what happens sometimes on the podcast, we end up when we have a guest here, it's pretty rare for us to, for any of us, there could be 4 or 5 of us on the show at one time, and we very rarely will speak over each other. Where via, you know, somebody zooming in, it happens a lot because there's like a slight delay or whatever the issue is. You can't read the person as well when they're going to speak again and things like that. And so I think there's just so many nuanced things that we don't even really think about, the energy that's in the room. I mean, the 3 of us are around each other enough. We can tell like when one's like a little tired, one might not be in the greatest mood. I mean, you can sense all these things, but you can't see any of that. You can't see any of that through the technology that we have available currently. I think, you know, right now people are very depressed. People are having a lot of anxiety, and we are hearing more and more people talk about, you know, things that you can do to kind of get over that. And you are starting to hear more people. I think people have kind of got over, well, maybe not over, but people have figured out a way around like COVID fatigue, you know, that people have kind of, they just, you know, we've been blitzed with it for so long, and we're finally coming out the other end just saying, okay, well now, like, what can I do? Yeah. You know, what can I do to keep my, my peace of mind? And for you, I think jiu-jitsu has been huge. Obviously our relationships are massive as well. For me, it's lifting and getting more connected to fitness and trying to be in better shape than I was last year. Like that's been, I don't think I would have messed with that actually, because I would have probably just cruised along and been my normal self, because I probably wouldn't feel a need to have an organized goal. But when you have such an organized goal, you don't have time to really sit around and be sad. You know, you don't have time to, I mean, literally, you don't have time to sit around and, you know, and feel sorry for yourself. Maybe it happens here or there, you know, or maybe you're just like, man, this situation really sucks. And maybe you get bummed out, but it lasts like 2 hours rather than 12 days or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
So for me, you know, staying connected to some goals has really helped. And maybe for somebody who's listening, maybe they can hop in on World Carnivore Month. Today is day number 6, I believe. And maybe you can hop in on World Carnivore Month, or a challenge or something that you see issued by somebody on social media, and get excited about something and have an aim, have a focus.
No, having a focus goal definitely makes a big difference. I think that's one big reason why people do feel kind of lost and depressed sometimes, because like they just feel lost. They don't know what they want to do, or they don't know, like, you know, with their goals, there's no real path there. So they're just kind of floating through. And one big thing is I notice a lot of people, you know, you watch a lot of news, you watch a lot of information that just kind of makes you sad about everything that's going on. It's just very bleak stuff continually coming through, you know, CNN, Fox News, YouTube, all that, just continuous negative things about what's going on. I think that's like your inputs are really going to, they can dictate how you feel. Then I guard my inputs very well because they will affect me too if I let too much of that BS in.
Yeah, and it's around every corner, right? And so, you know, I can't remember which podcast, but we talked about like don't get stuck in an echo chamber. You know?
Yeah.
And with, you know, social dilemma, Tim Kendall, you know, explaining to us like, you know, once you start going down one path, social media, all these apps, like, oh, that's where you want to go. Okay, let us clear the way. And then that's all you see. So one sad story catches your attention, and then all of a sudden, damn, like there's nothing good going on in the world. Like this is terrible.
This is the worst time in history.
Yeah, exactly. Like I'm sad now. So like
really? I'm part of the worst time in history.
I've heard that so much.
Like that does not serve me well. That does not do me any good.
It makes no sense. It's not even legitimate. Like think about 1950. Yeah, racism at an all-time high. You're like, really?
Like, Great Depression. Like you
is it higher? It's like, and do we have a meter? Like, is it higher than it was before? Like, oh man.
Oh god.
Yeah.
Yeah. World War I wasn't bad. Great Depression wasn't horrible.
But dude,
right now.
Yeah. They didn't have lockdowns, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I don't even have no idea what they did. Sorry.
But yeah, real talk. Like guarding your inputs, being careful about the things that you watch on a day-to-day basis. That's huge. And then being careful about like the people around you, because other people's energy is infectious, man. Like if you have someone that's super mopey all the time, and they're like, that's the person or people that you're with, you're gonna reflect that too. That's how you're gonna be, or you're gonna take that in. It's gonna get you down too.
Yeah. And even though we started out with some bitching, things are still pretty good. You know, like Americans still have access to their automobiles, and you can still drive wherever you want. No one's checking through your phone. You can still call and text whomever you want. I mean, it's like we gotta always take a step back and remember, like, yeah, there's some weird stuff with like masks and like certain places you can go and can't go, but it's just an adjustment, really. It's not that horrific, and I think you got to try to find a way to still communicate with people and see people physically and do things physically so that you feel good about yourself.
And then Iris on the live chat just pointed out something really, I think, very important. You know, without having the social interaction, without being around other people, we're almost losing that whole, like, not intuition, but like when you can read off people's energy, and it's like, okay, if we're not practicing it, we're not using that muscle, you know, it'll atrophy, right? And I'm just like, holy shit, like I didn't think about that, but it makes a lot of sense. You know, you haven't seen anybody for a long time and they walk in upset or mad or whatever, and you just can't read it.
Yeah.
Like it's probably because you're not around people enough.
Yeah. It might give birth to like more social anxiety for people because they had this pause and they maybe were not great socially in the first place, and now they're really fucked. You know?
Yeah.
Now they get around a group of people and they kind of don't know what they're doing. And Nsima, you just said something that was amazing. You said guard your input, which I think is amazing, especially from a jiu-jitsu perspective. Like what's a reason for a guard? What's a guard in jiu-jitsu?
It's a defense. Like it's a defense and it's an offense because you can, you know, make sure nobody gets past your guard. Nobody gets.
What's getting past your guard mean? Like,
you know, passing me and getting to a mount. And
right.
Now you've mounted me, and now
my hips are higher than if we're on the ground and I'm on top of you, and my hips are higher than your hips, and I have passed your guard, and I probably have, I have way more of an advantage in that position than I did actually being like stuck in your guard.
Yep. You'd be able to attack, and I'm at risk of getting submitted.
So I think my point in like bringing that up is like, it's great to have a skill set that safeguards you against, you know, some of these things that are going on. And for us, it's been fitness. Like fitness is our guard. You know, we have been able to stay attached to that. So in Nsima and some of us here that the gyms are shut down, we can't really do anything. We're in quarantine. Nsima's like, I think I have a kettlebell in the garage, or maybe I can borrow one from ST, or maybe I'll go out and buy one, or whatever the case is. I've always wanted to mess around with that. I'll do that. I mean, have you used kettlebells much in the past?
Not as much as I did nowadays. Not as much as I do now.
I mean, now, like, I think you use it every day almost, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
And then how much does it weigh?
It's like I have a 50-pound kettlebell. No, I have a 55-pound kettlebell and a 45-pound kettlebell. Yeah.
Could you maintain your strength or even be close to your strength by just using those, do you think?
Maintain, yeah. Maintain for the most part. It's like
be within range of moving similar weights, but give or take 50 pounds or whatever.
Just because it's a really good stimulus. It's a lot of different types of movement, and you can get a really good workout with it. So it helped maintain a lot of strength, fitness. Yeah, it's great.
And if we think about some of our friends, you know, people like Jason Khalipa and some of the people that we've been around, you know, Jason Khalipa, like, you know, during this time, he has such a vast skill set when it comes to fitness. What does the guy need to get a good workout? A track, you know, a hill, a floor to do some push-ups on or do some burpees off of, right? And so I think what we want to try to work towards is to always try to have some sort of skill acquisition. We talk a lot about learning on this show, and it's great to learn stuff so you have the knowledge that prepares you for these times of need where you seem like you're totally screwed or totally fucked. And fitness is everything to me. I love going to the gym. It's my favorite thing. And then whoosh, it's just pulled right out from underneath you. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of people that don't have some of these skill sets. Like all they really know is kind of how to move around a barbell. And they've been pretty upset, you know, rightfully so. They've been very upset that they haven't been able to go in the gym and train. But imagine that same person that has, you know, maybe they've been powerlifting and that's their favorite thing, bench, squat, deadlift. Imagine if that same person just had a pretty good understanding of bodybuilding and they were like, those, you know, I have 20 and 30 pound dumbbells in the garage. I'll just dust those things off and I'll do some flies and squats and stiff leg deadlifts and bent over rows and lateral raises and shoulder presses with those things until I can't move anymore. Like our boy Doug talked about the other day, 2 or 3 hours of moving around 405 or whatever. He's fucking maniac. But having a skill set can be huge, and it can really pull you out of some difficult times.
On that note, I know everybody that listens to this podcast knows we work out a lot. So since we were talking about this, you probably knew that we were going to talk about exercise as a form of dealing with it. But I mean, really, exercise is one of the best ways to deal with it. You imagine how you feel after getting it doesn't mean not even like, you know, working with a lot of weights, but just getting a good sweat in, right? All those endorphins, how you feel afterwards. You feel like you've accomplished something. You can think clearly. You feel like you can go do other things. It's like, it's this catalyst to lead you towards doing so many other beneficial things during your day that when you don't do it, you feel like crap. Mm-hmm. The only times I've ever really felt an actual feeling of real depression in my life were the times that I literally actually couldn't physically exercise. Like I was in a cast for months. I couldn't do shit. I felt really horrible because like everything I tried to do, I couldn't get anything good out of it. Right. So it's like, that is something that can really just push you and catapult you in the right direction.
Yeah, even just like a simple practical application this week. So, you know, baby's coming soon. Mm-hmm. He's scheduled arrival date is supposed to be the end of this month, but
you're talking about this baby for a long time. I don't believe you anymore.
Roughly
been like
9
2
months.
Years.
Oh, shit. Has it been that long?
Yeah, been a while, dude.
It feels like it's been 2 days, but you know, like the whole nesting phase has kicked off. So like we're like getting everything ready, putting stuff up on the walls and like just all kinds of stuff. Right. As far as like, you know, getting his room ready for him. Mm-hmm. I couldn't find a hammer. I was so upset because I have my tools and I'm like, how did I put it somewhere? Like I got like really frustrated because we were on a roll. We were moving furniture, doing all kinds of stuff. And I couldn't find this damn hammer. I'm like, what, are you kidding me? And Stephanie was like, hey, just jump on the treadmill. I'm like, okay. And then when I got off the treadmill, I was like, man, fuck that hammer. Let's go buy a new one. Like my mood changed so quick. And I know it sounded like I wasn't like raged or anything, but like that could have easily have like, you know, just made me have like a less than awesome day. But like 500 calories later, I'm like, dude, like what's up? Like today's still a great day. So, you know, if somebody's listening, like I'm not depressed, I don't need exercise or whatever. It's like little things like that. It's like night and day difference. It helps like instantly.
Yeah, I think some people might even go as far to say that exercise might do more for your mind and your brain than it does for your body. I mean, it feels amazing. I think we forget a lot of times why we're exercising. I think we're in there, we're like, I want a bigger back, or I want bigger legs, or I want to be stronger. And you kind of forget you're really in there just to feel better. Like we forget that. And then so sometimes you slaughter the shit out of yourself and you're like, I kind of defeated the purpose. But to Andrew's point, I think it would be really, really rare. The only thing that comes to mind that I can think of, I've even lifted sick many times and felt better. I think in the long run it was a mistake, but I think I still felt better for lifting. The only I guess there's two things I can think of. One is if you have a headache, that's kind of tough sometimes. So you might have to do, if you have a headache, you might have to like a walk or something, or do something real light. If you lift, it just makes it feel like your head's going to explode. Or if you're nauseous. Those are the only two cases where I can think of where it's like, exercise probably not your best idea, but it will almost always make you feel a little bit better. You know, just to get moving. It usually causes you to start moving in some other direction too, whether it be mentally or physically. Maybe you get on the treadmill for a few minutes, and then maybe you find yourself lifting weights, or maybe you get on the treadmill for a few minutes and you find yourself journaling or reading or doing something. So you have to entertain giving some of that stuff a shot.
Yeah. And then if you have the ability to, I mean, I know again, where people are social distancing, but a lot of people have access to maybe one person or, you know, a few people that aren't too scared of exercising together. Honestly, group workouts make a big difference. Working out with other people, whether it be with the kettlebell or whether it be, you know, doing a hill or something, makes a very big difference for like motivation, socialization, like being around other people. That's why like group classes and things like jujitsu, the community aspect, CrossFit, that's why people love those things, not just because it's a great workout, but because it's done with other people. Like you don't realize how beneficial that is until you don't have it. You know what I mean? And then you're like, wow. I mean, I don't just miss working out, but I also miss working out with those people, right? So if you have the ability to maybe get something together as a group with some people in your neighborhood or some friends, you know, because that can make a very big difference if you're feeling down.
Yeah. And who was it, Mark? It was during a conversation that you had with, Carl Lenore, Ron Penna and those guys, where they're saying like, because you're around other people, you're like, I think your endorphins and all this stuff is like heightened. And that is actually has been shown to be somewhat of an anabolic effect on your body. So even training with people that you like will actually help you gain muscle, or like there's a possibility of that being true. And it makes sense, you know, like when the team here at ST is like training really hard together, like they all grow together. It makes a lot of sense. So I think, everyone should give that a try.
Yeah, I think, you know, it's depression is a really like, you know, we kind of kicked this thing off by talking about, you know, being depressed or upset kind of because of the circumstances and because of and I just want to always make sure that we're sensitive to people that have like clinical depression, because it's a very serious thing that you can't really, maybe the word can't's not a good word, but it's so difficult to manage that there's still like a lot that's unknown. Some people take medication, some people go to a psychiatrist, some people have what looks to be pretty good upbringings, and they still they're just depressed. And I think for some people, it's a matter of living with it, managing it, just like somebody might have to live with having a bad knee or a bad back. It's just like we don't know why, you know, we're trying all these different things, and things seem to assist or help a little bit, but they're not like kind of a magic pill. But mainly for today, I mean, we're mainly talking about like people just being more like bummed out by what's going on, and allowing that to affect their emotions, and then therefore affect their actions. And what we're trying to communicate and what we're trying to do is have you go the opposite way. Have you, maybe focus in on a new goal, focus in on something different. If you look at a lot of these, a lot of the companies, like look at like Nike or some of these big companies, it just seemed like they just all have figured out a way to thrive. Like the gyms have shut down. So do people need exercise gear? Do people need stuff from Slingshot? Do people need cross-training stuff from a company like Nike? You would think no, like they don't, but like these companies have pivoted, as Slingshot has as well. I know you hear that word a lot, but you just basically refocus your goal, what you're going to do. And for us, it's been amazing because it really just has disrupted what we normally do. And we're like, hey, you know what? Never mind what we normally do, because this shit ain't normal. What's going on is not normal. And we're going to have to fight that off with some creativity. So for anybody that's tuning in today that has had something where they're just, I really want to go, I would love to go and do that. Try to figure out a way to go and do whatever that thing is. If it's, something that's currently shut down, you obviously would have to wait, but think about the options that are open. Don't focus on the things that you can't do. Focus on the things that you can do.
Yo, Mark, what's your, and Andrew too, what is your process for organizing your thoughts? Like, what do you guys typically do? Because one thing I think is a lot of people have a lot going on up here, and it's just so much that they just like sit back and they're like, fuck it. Like, I have too much to think about right now. I don't want to deal with any of it. And it just becomes overbearing. You just kind of give up. So what do you guys do to like organize your thoughts?
As long as it's not too much, I can just prioritize in my head and go that route. I'll eat that frog and do the one thing that I actually don't want to do the most. And then after that, everything becomes a little bit easier. But if it's a very task heavy thing where I have, stuff to upload, or I just have a lot of things to do, I have to write it down. Because if not, I start to get anxious thinking like, oh, I'm not going to have enough time for all of this. But then I look down on paper and it's like, oh, I don't really have that much to do. Like, I'll be okay. So that's really what it is. I would love to get better, because there's times where I'm like, nah, I got it. I'll just leave it in my head. And then I'll wake up the next day and be like, I cannot believe I forgot to, upload this video or add this to the description, or just something really stupid to where it upsets me so much that like, it's not worth it to spend the extra time to write stuff down. I'm thinking that's kind of what you were referencing.
I was curious about that. Okay.
Yeah. For me, I try just to really think a lot, about the thoughts that I have, the thoughts that are coming in, as an input. Somebody mentions something to you, and then you sit there and you kind of think about it for a second. I try to think about it quite a bit, and then I try to figure out like what action matches up with that well. Sometimes if I get like frustrated from something, then I got to think about, now I got to like a whole nother thing to reevaluate, because I'll go from that. If you kind of think about this as like branches, and I'm trying to work my way back to the center of like the tree or something, right? If somebody says something, let's just say it's something like someone's like, hey, you should do this with your company. Sometimes that can be annoying, because you're like, I think about my fucking company all day and I've thought about that a million times, Yeah. So, but like, that's not helpful. And what the person was suggesting, they were probably just trying to help. They probably weren't trying to be an asshole. They probably weren't trying to be mean or anything. So then I have to think about, okay, where did that thought pop into my head that I think that this person's trying to like hurt me, or they're trying to give me bad advice? Like, what the fuck is that about? So I got to kind of retrace my steps and find out what's the origin of that. And you can say, okay, well, you're kind of offended because you have a high value assignment associated to the company that you built. And so you're sensitive to people saying certain things about it. So you just have to kind of reevaluate how you look at that. Why be sensitive to it? Why not be more open to it, since it is the company that you built, it is the company that you work so hard on with your wife and with your team, and you work on it every day. Let's be more accepting, because what if that suggestion, what if that helps move us forward? Mm-hmm. Like, I'll do anything to move us forward within reason. So if it moves us forward, get over it, so that I'll start to think that way. And then I'll think more about what they suggested. And then I'll think like, okay, what are some actions that I can take towards that? And I'm the kind of person that I might think very similar to a lot of other people, or I might say, well, the problem with that is, but when I do say that, I correct myself, because that to me is negative as well. So if I was like, hey, did you ever try this in jiu-jitsu? And you're like, dude, like you took like one class, dude, but sure enough, sometimes you're doing something and you're like, hey, that suggestion from that guy that fucking never took one class, actually, he's kind of right. He told me I have to breathe through my nose, because what if it was from somebody that knew something different? They knew about meditation, or they knew about, yoga or something. And you're thinking they don't know shit about jiu-jitsu, but maybe they know something about the human body. Maybe they know how to calm down a little bit. And maybe that would be something that you find useful. So there's a lot of shit flying around in my head. And I try to like work my way back towards, especially if something is kind of negative, or if I deem it as negative, I try to think about, why is that? Like, that just seems like a roadblock. Like, I just threw up a roadblock for no reason. You hear people say that term all the time. They say, well, the problem with that is, like, you get into a meeting, you start talking with people, and it's like, hey, look, man, any asshole off the street can point out the problems that we have and the issues that we have. But if you're not really bringing up a problem to help solve the problem, and you're just kind of shooting it down, that's not really very useful. You could say something more along the lines of, hey, you know what? We have done that before, and it wasn't that successful because of A, B, and C, which is different than saying, well, the problem with that is when you say that to me, it throws up a roadblock, and it's like, I don't need to hear that any further, because I already have so much of that going on in my head that I have to sit there with a fucking machine gun and shoot that shit down, because I'm like, that's not helpful. That's not working me towards my goal. So yeah. I think you guys know what I'm talking about, where you kind of have that in your head. You're like, I'm going to go do this. Like, even just like, hey, I'm going to go work out at 6 a.m. Then the voice in your head says, well, the problem with that is you don't normally get to bed till 10. Yeah. And it's like, you don't need to, well, just get to bed at 8. Yeah. Problem solved.
Solution oriented instead of
trying.
Focusing
on. As much as I can be.
Yeah. No, it's interesting the way that you work through things versus like the way Andrew works through things. Because I'm very similar with Andrew, but like, I really need to just get everything out. Like, I need to get it out of my head. Sometimes, like, there will be times that I'll try to just like go through things in my head, and it'll just get annoying, because like, it's just too much shit. I think too much.
Makes you think like you're a madman, right?
Yes, exactly. Makes me think I'm crazy. So I literally have to get everything that's on my mind out on a piece of paper. Then I can start working through it better. So that's something that helps me out, but it's cool how we all have like kind of those different ways of getting to the same exact place. But I think that that's absolutely necessary. You need to figure out a way, whatever way works best for you, to deal with all of the issues that you're giving yourself in your head. Like you just don't give yourself, you don't have roadblocks, right? You're trying to work through solutions constantly. There's nothing that's like, you can't do this because
I try to really recognize them early on, the roadblock. I try to recognize it early on. Charlie Zamora, our good buddy, we were talking about him earlier.
Yeah.
Charlie mentioned, rather than like roadblocks, hurdles.
Yeah.
He's like, a hurdle, like if you practice, you can jump over a hurdle all day long, So rather than like there's not really like a roadblock. And I like that, because I'm somebody that believes there's a solution to really everything. Like everything has a solution. Even how long we live, I think, has a solution to it. It's just who knows if anybody will ever figure it out. Cancer has a solution. Like everything's got a solution. It's just a matter of having the right amount of knowledge. I do agree, though. You can overthink things, and then you get what's called analysis paralysis, because you keep analyzing it over and over again, and then you don't do anything.
Yeah.
That can happen, especially the more knowledgeable you become at something. You could walk into the gym and you could say, I'm going to train shoulders today. And then you could say, well, I did train them 3 days ago and they are still kind of sore. And you're like, well, I'm going to train legs, and like, I'm going to work on some, and you could just,
but my knee.
Yeah. My knee's a little weird.
Yeah.
But I did read that article the other day about the leg press, and that thing from Mike Israetel was really interesting about the full range of motion. But when Doug Fouché was on the podcast and he talked about pauses with Charles Glass, that would be really interesting. And it's like, would you fucking go already, you bitch? Like, just fucking take another step into the gym and fucking just pick an exercise and just go.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's better. You're better off being like naive and kind of almost dumb to stuff, or you just kind of because a lot of times you ask people that are really great at something, you're waiting for this like diamond to come out of them, and you're waiting for something amazing to come out of them. You're like, hey man, how'd you get so good at that? And they're like, I did it every day.
Do you remember the movie with Kevin Hart and The Rock? If you could find this clip, Andrew, it'd be so good. And
when he's
like, how did you get so big?
He's like, how'd you lose all the weight or whatever?
Yeah,
it wasn't a big deal, like twice a day, 7 days a week, or whatever he said. Yeah.
That shit was so
funny. That's all I did for 30 years or something like that. Yeah.
Well, but the way that he says it is, he says it like all I had to do was.
Yeah.
Kevin Hart's looking at him like he's crazy.
I love that part.
That's a great scene. Is that what the fuck movie is it?
I don't remember.
Oh,
the
it's
names.
when he's The Rock's real fat.
Central Intelligence.
That's a good movie.
It is.
That's
it's actually
really good movie.
Very funny. But that part of that movie always gets me, because it's like, how'd you get so big? Well, we've been working out every day for 30 years.
I think Kevin Hart has to like tell him that he could like beat someone's ass or something too. Because The Rock's like confused. He's like, I don't know, can I?
Yeah.
He's like, yeah. He's like, I think you can. Like, look at the size of you.
Oh man. But it's like it's like a pool analogy, and everyone's heard this before. If you don't know how to swim, how are you going to do it without like fucking jumping in and trying it?
Yeah.
You gotta go, and you can't think about what you're going to do if you've never done it before.
Oh, maybe you learn that your body like is more likely to float than it is to sink. How do you know that unless you submerge yourself in some water? And you're like, oh, okay, well, I can at least float a little bit if I don't flail my arms like a maniac.
Yeah.
Maybe you can figure out maybe not how to swim, but maybe you can at least figure out how to tread some water and like not drown. Mm-hmm. You find it?
What?
Yeah, I think this is it. It's because they can't like put the exact description of it, but sorry, thought I turned that off. Let's see, hopefully it's not too loud. Oh, this is a long clip though. Let me see if I can find it.
We can't see a video.
I know. Here we go.
God, man, look at you. You've lost like 200 pounds. See, you gained it back in muscle. Oh, my God, you look great.
No, you look great.
Stop it.
No, you haven't changed since high school, dude.
Yeah.
No, you're just sexy as dick right now.
You look somebody in the eyes and say that.
Hey, let's get hammered.
Well, I got an early day at work, so I probably...
Come on, I'm buying. Come on.
Oh, shit. I'm sorry, man. I am blown away right now.
Oh, add it later. But anyways.
But yeah.
You are sexy as dick.
Yeah, that was a good movie. But yeah, no. Getting that, and in terms of just like trying things out, you have to do it. It's funny. It kind of makes me think of there's like, I think it was 2 years ago. It was a kid that wanted to work with me. He was like 17 or 18, and he's never worked out a day in his life. And I was talking to him, and he was telling me like all the things he wants to do and all the programs that he's checked out. And he's like, I was like, oh yeah, so what have you done? He's like, well, I checked out stuff by Rivido. I checked out stuff like 531. I also checked out some programs from Jeff Nippard in terms of his arms and chest and stuff. And I was like, and he mentioned a bunch of other programs. Like, oh, those are all great programs. Okay, which one have you? Which one did you do recently? He's like, none of them. I was like, wait, well, you mean you just told me about all these programs. So you haven't done any of them? He's like, no, I don't know which one's the best. I was like, okay, so what have you done? He's like, I haven't done anything yet, but this is what I want to do. I'm like, so why haven't you done it? Because I don't know which one's the best. So why don't you try one, man? Just you have to just go in and try something. If you're gonna see what works well for you, you got to do something. Say, okay, well, I'm just gonna think about which one I want to do, and then I'll let you know later. But it's like that's the kind of thing where you just gotta go do something with what you've got. You have to.
Yeah, I like Mark's response to a YouTube comment, I think yesterday. They were asking about stretching. You know, like, should I do weighted stretching at the end of the workout? And Mark's like, just do whatever you're going to do. Like, oh, okay. Like, just do it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Which one do you prefer? You know, because that'll most likely be the thing that you'll stick with. And if you do it with some sort of consistency, then we're heading in the right direction. But if you're like making yourself do shit, when it comes to that, when it comes to like, you know, kind of forcing yourself to do stuff, I haven't really seen it be that effective. And the only way it can be effective is if it's in, like some microdosing of it. You know, you kind of force yourself to stretch 1 minute every day. Because you're like, it's just ridiculous not to stretch for 1 minute. Come on, like I could do 1 minute. And then you start to bring in a little bit more of it, even if you hated stretching. By the time you got to 8 minutes or 10 minutes, you probably start to kind of enjoy it. And it might be a habit. But then this is where it's great to be open-minded, and it's great to accept other things. Maybe you start doing more minutes of it and you find that you're still forcing yourself to do it. You're like, I don't dig this. And then maybe you start doing like Tai Chi or something. Like you do something totally different that's maybe not stretching, but maybe it's like, I don't know, helps you move better or whatever. You start to find, maybe you do yoga or Pilates or something. You find something that's a little different.
Exactly.
Yeah. We had a question that came in from the live chat from Chase, and it's in regards to the carnivore diet, because you guys are talking about stretching and stuff. Are you guys altering your workouts at all because you're not taking in any carbs, or nothing's changed? Nothing's changed.
Nothing has changed for me personally.
Yeah, keep forging forward. I mean, I think I don't know, my legs are really sore, but this is before we had Doug on the show. I did 3 different drop sets on the 3 different drop sets on the leg press. So it was like I did 20, 20, 20. So I did 60 reps 3 different times, and it just I was like, I'm gonna go, pretty light. Like, am I gonna have that much weight on there? And it's still completely wrecked me. But Jessica was like, I'm surprised you're doing so many reps like this, like being on, not eating any carbs. And I'm like, I just for me, I don't notice that huge of a difference. If I was to lift heavy and I was trying to do like, maximum stuff, and I mean, maybe I'd notice a small difference, but I always just think that carbs can help make things a little more optimal, but I don't think when you take them away, it doesn't have to make you feel awful. If you got your electrolytes balanced out and you're eating enough. But what happens to most people though, is they go on a diet, they do cardio, and they get rid of carbs kind of all at once, that starting on Monday thing that we talk about all the time. And then it's like Thursday and like, this shit don't work, man. I feel like shit. And it's like, well, yeah, of course you're trying to do so many different things, which is great that you're working on it. But, just small steps just little small choppy steps over time is going to be what gets you there the best.
I mean, real talk though, not eating carbs isn't going to stop you from doing anything.
No.
It's interesting that that question in and of itself is an interesting question, I think, because it's like, has your workouts changed? Why should they change? Like, there's only like one intake. You're eating less or no carbs. Does that stop you from doing anything? Maybe it stops you from feeling a certain way when doing it, but you can still get it done. Maybe you're not going to go for a max effort lift, but you can still get pretty close. You can still do all the same workouts. It's not that big of a deal. And I think the reason why I have that mindset now, because I didn't have that a few years ago, is because I've done so many workouts with barely any food in my system.
Right.
And they were just they were good workouts. So yeah, there are certain ways you can fuel your workout so you feel better and feel really good. But at the same time, if you're dieting or whatever, that with carbs or without, that doesn't stop you from doing anything. It shouldn't.
Dominic D'Agostino, 10 days fasted. Yep. I think he took like some sort of like vitamin type thing, and he took ketones. Mm-hmm. And he did it for 10 days, and then he deadlifted like 585 for like 10 reps or some shit. You know, so I mean, he's an exception to the rule. He's a fucking maniac, but you know, you shouldn't really feel like you need these things. Now, if you get into your workout and it feels like it's way more demanding because you never really have messed around with a lower carbohydrate diet before, just cut out an exercise or two. You know, maybe have maybe spread things out a little bit so that you can exercise nearly every day, but what you do in the gym is a little bit less. You know, go in the gym, maybe train maybe just say I'm going to train 6 days a week, and every time I go into the gym, I'm going to do 3 exercises, and I'll do 3 to 5 sets of each thing, and I'll go by how I feel. You know, and if you start to feel like crap, you can back off a little bit. But I agree with Nsima. I don't really think there's a reason to change anything. Don't forget, we don't necessarily need diet. Like if dietary carbohydrates were removed from the planet, we wouldn't die.
We'd be fine.
We'd still be fine, which is probably hard for people to imagine. But if all dietary carbohydrates were removed from the planet, we would still live on.
Oh man, I love how a few years ago I'd have been like, blasphemy. But that's very true. That is very freaking true. You know what? I also think that we can use like, a lot of us use the gym to get physically stronger. We use the gym to lift more weight, build more muscle, etc. But I think that, you know, doing a lot of this stuff, and I'm not telling you guys you don't have to go work out fasted if you don't want to. It's not necessary or whatever. And yeah, like this is World Carnivore Month, so you're going to be getting rid of carbs, but I feel like a lot of that stuff can help you mentally get stronger too. When you finish a workout and like, yeah, you're not eating carbs and you see what you've been able to do and you're like, wow, I had a really fucking good workout. I didn't need to have that, you know, pre-workout 300 grams of carbs that I usually have, but I still feel great. Or I had a great workout. I didn't even eat anything for a while. Like you feel like, holy shit, I'm fucking, all I need is myself. Like you feel mentally tough for doing that. And I'm not saying all your workouts should be that way, but that is training yourself in and of itself. Like nowadays, I feel I'm not surprised anymore when I can do a session of jujitsu and I haven't eaten all day and I roll for an hour and I feel fucking great. And it's like mentally, I feel like I've overcome something, and I feel amazing for that.
I think you're talking a little bit about like the kind of O'Hearn principle where, you know, Mike is like, he'll diet down and he does the exact opposite of whatever everyone else does. Mike's like, I'm doing singles and triples. And it's like, wait, but why? And he's like, you know, point to his head. He'll be like, for my brain. It's fucking awesome, man. And he does it all the time. He does it with all kinds of stuff. I think on New Year's, it's hard to tell like what he really does and really does. You know, it's hard to know. He's a little bit of a mystery when it comes to some of these things. But I think he fasted through like New Year's or something, or New Year's Eve. He was just like, well, you know, it's the day where everyone wants to celebrate and everyone wants to do like all these things. And he's like, I'm just not eating, you know, and he just didn't eat for the whole day. And the next day he was in the gym training, and he's like, when I'm done training, like I'm going to get my big meal in, you know? Why not kind of lean in and just make things like 100 times worse sometimes, you know, just figure out a way to, you know, go against the grain. And then also too, when he's getting big, you figure that's when he would like lift the most, but he uses a shorter rest period a lot of times, and he does higher reps. And it's like, that's really hard when you start getting to be 260 and 270 and you're, you know, doing 15 reps every minute on the minute. It's like you're huffing and puffing. And I think whatever way you can keep yourself really highly interested in this stuff is going to be the key factor in keeping you motivated, is just that you really like doing it, you know? And so you might have to think of weird things to do. I know for myself, like it's just different exercises, doing them different ways. I think Louis Simmons taught me, he basically said, there's no new systems. There's only new exercises. You know, most of these systems have been around forever. You got drop sets, giant sets, super sets. I mean, it's like all these things have been around for a really long time. If you think you're the first person to do 100 rep sets, you're not. You know, people have done them before. 10 sets of 10, German volume training, 5 sets of 5. You know, all these things, they've been around for a really long time. And maybe you stumble upon something that someone's never done, but I doubt it.
Like 30 sets of, or 50 sets of 30.
Oh my God. Yeah. That sounded really brutal.
No thanks.
But there's going to be there's always, not necessarily even a new exercise, but a different way to do an exercise, because you can adjust so much. You can do an overhead press on a machine, and you can have one hand back slightly further than the other hand, and then you can switch. I mean, there's a million different. The other day when I was training, I was doing incline presses, and I had 40 in one hand and a 60 in the other. Then the next set, and then I switched. I did 10 reps, and I did another 10 reps, and then the next set I started out the opposite way. Why? Just because. Because why not? You know, it was just fun. I was like, I want to see what I've done stuff like that before, but I wanted to feel it again and wanted to mess around with it. It felt fucking great. It was fun.
Yeah, and like I've said on, I think the previous podcast or a couple of podcasts ago, like I haven't been low carb in a really long time, and doing it now. And I worked out before the podcast yesterday, and I woke up this morning like, oh man, my arms feel pretty good. Like they felt a little full. Yeah, and I was like, whoa, like sick. Like I got pretty pumped. Like it was really cool. But real quick, a question in regards to the carnivore diet: nuts, yay or nay?
I would say no.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean they're not really part of the diet. If we're talking long term, like once this month is over or whatever, go ahead and throw them back.
Don't do it in Nsima.
Not a big deal.
We weren't talking about
these nuts.
we weren't talking about
I'm a child.
nuts.
I was just like,
somebody had to say it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Keep on.
You're talking about shaved nuts or
Oh no,
salted nuts?
Oh, sorry. That's why we don't have many ladies in the chat room often. Hey, today's a legit all-time world record for us. We have 3 ladies in the chat room today.
Wow.
Probably 2 after that, but you know.
They started talking about their nuts, and we had to go.
God damn it.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. But anyways.
Man, when will I grow up?
Never.
When?
No. There's no point. Don't grow up. Why would you ruin things and grow up?
When will someone talking about like nuts and almonds not make me laugh? Like what? Come on now.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. But yeah, no nuts on carnivore.
Every once in a while, I got a couple friends who like just stop and look at me and they're like, "You're a dad. like you're supposed to be a dad." And I'm like, I know. I don't know if I'll ever get there. I don't know if I'll ever be mature enough to actually be one.
Oh man.
Yeah, it always shocks people when I tell them I don't like kids. Like, you might want to work on that one.
Yeah, you got. Oh man.
Yeah. Cool.
Everybody hates kids, don't they?
I thought so.
I don't know. I thought that was normal.
Maybe. You like babies.
I do. I like kids a lot actually, but yeah, they can be a pain in the neck. They really can. They can drive you a little crazy.
Yeah. All right, guys, I got to get out of here.
What's going on?
I got for everyone that is listening, you guys can follow us over to markbell.com.
Oh,
yeah.
What's going on there?
We got Zach Evanesh on the I almost said podcast, but on the Super Friends series.
Ooh,
yeah.
Awesome.
That'll be fun. So it'll be me, Jesse Burdick, Josh Settlage, interviewing Zach Evanesh and getting all kinds of cool inside scoop stories.
We need to have
a long time ago.
We need to have Zach on the podcast.
I'll tell him today.
Yeah, I think we had him on like a long time ago.
Yeah, he's always been super nice and supportive of the podcast. So I'm excited.
He's going to be laughing his ass off the entire. Have you talked to him before?
Not in person. No, I mean not.
You're gonna love him.
Text.
He's super happy all the time.
Sick.
He's gonna be like all giggly and shit.
Didn't I forgot what it was, but he gave us something. Was it? Oh, never mind. I'm not gonna remember. It was something in the gym. I think on one of the monoliths or something. Shit, I'm not gonna remember. God,
So he's been scaring his son since his son was like could walk, you know. Like he'll come out of the bushes and scare the shit out of me. Yeah, and he records it all the time.
Growing up.
And and laughs his ass off.
That's so mean.
So like he sent me a video like just maybe like a week or two ago, and he just randomly threw an egg at his son. His son's in the backyard on like a lawn chair. And he just rifles a fucking egg. He's like the kid's reading a book, and the egg just goes all over his chest, and Zach is laughing his ass off. I'm like, that kid's gonna be a fucking serial killer, man. He's gonna fuck people up.
As long as he keeps, when he scares him, as long as he keeps jumping back, being scared, like it frightens him. Like that's actually a good thing. Like it's the ones that don't jump at all are like psychopaths or something crazy like that.
Yeah, it gets them every time, pretty much.
Dude,
Yeah.
I know how to. Okay, I know you got to go, but I got to lock the door every time when I pee at home now.
Did you make that shot?
It's hard to tell.
Okay, I have to throw the trash out.
Yeah.
So you lock the door?
I have to lock the door now because, and I don't know why I haven't been doing this, but as of recent, my girl's been like screaming and opening the door like as I'm midstream to frighten me.
I was going to say, has she done that as you're standing up wiping?
No, because I usually close the door. I lock the door, but like she'll like scream in a horrific manner, just like that podcast where you guys heard. If you guys remember, she'll like it's like this deafening scream. I'll be like, whoa, and then my
pee goes everywhere,
and it's just like I'm scarred.
She thinks she's funny, right?
I think she's funny.
That is pretty funny.
It's scary.
I'd be upset.
Who's up? Nsima?
No, we just got to, not yet. Thank you everybody for checking out today's live stream. It's really cool. Like I said, having a PR today with having 3 ladies all chatting in the chat room. Wow. Really appreciate that. Since you guys are on the live stream, if you haven't checked out today's episode, which was with Big Doug Fruchet. When is today? Tomorrow, doesn't matter. If you're on iTunes, then go back and listen to that one. Please make sure you're following the podcast at Mark Bell's Power Project on Instagram, at MB Power Project on Twitter. My Instagram and Twitter is at I am Andrew Z. Nsima, where are you at?
Nsima Inyang on Instagram and YouTube, and Nsima Inyang on Twitter. Mark?
At Mark Smelly Bell. Strength is never a weakness. Weakness is never strength. Catch y'all later.